Hello guys, welcome to Captain Dorja's Armory. This is Captain Dorja. I'm in World of Warships today, and I want to look at the USS Cleveland. This is the Tier 6 American cruiser. The ship is really good. And I want to look in the garage at, or the port. Bear with me, coming from World of Tanks, I'm going to say garage a lot. That's one of those things that's going to happen. So I want to look at the Cleveland in the port. And I want to talk about what makes this ship so good. I want to talk about how I like to equip mine and the kind of commander skills and my thought process on that for the captain. You can see my captain has quite a few skills. I want to talk about how this ship has changed from closed beta to open beta and how the ongoing development of the game has already affected the ship, even in the short term since about January or so until now. Well, I guess that's almost 9 months now, but whatever. I spent a lot of that time at sea, so it doesn't seem like that long of a time to me. But yeah, I want to cover all that stuff, and I want to take a look at this thing in a battle that I played to talk about how, kind of a little bit of a difference in the way that I play this ship compared to the way most people on the servers seem to play it. And basically, I hope you guys can enjoy this and maybe pick up a thing or two, and maybe I'll learn a thing or two from it as well. So yeah, what do I think about the Cleveland? Well, first of all, the Cleveland's really good, and the primary reason why the Cleveland is really good is because it's just strong in so many ways. There's very few things about the Cleveland that's bad. Let's just run down the list here. First of all, survivability. It's got 35,200 health when the ship is fully upgraded, and that's quite a lot. I can't remember what the Omaha has for health off the top of my head, but I know it's not that much. And I remember in the closed beta, I got the Cleveland, and the health increase from Tier 5 to Tier 6 was large. And then I got the Pensacola, and it actually had less health. And the New Orleans didn't really have any more health than the Cleveland. The New Orleans is the Tier 8. And I even had the Baltimore, the Tier 9, and it still had right around 35,200 health. So when you're at Tier 6, that's a lot of health for a light cruiser. This is a light cruiser, but it's really durable. And it's not just the hit points that make it durable. You're going to have to kind of use your imagination here with me on this. I haven't been able to find the picture that I was looking for, but the other reason why the Cleveland is so durable is it's a difficult ship to score Citadel hits on, and the reason for that is where the Citadel is actually located. Now I'm going to look at anything I have in the port to see if I've got anything with a really obvious Citadel. The Furitaka definitely counts. The Furitaka's got a really obvious Citadel because it runs almost the entire length of the ship. But I'll use the Omaha, the Tier 5, as an example, because the Omaha is a really good example of a ship that's very easy to score Citadel hits on. The rule of thumb with scoring Citadel hits is if you want to score them easily and reliably, aim at the waterline right below the funnels. The Omaha's got 4 funnels, and they're really wide, and because of the way this ship was designed to be a fast cruiser in a time when it was pretty hard to get fast ships, it meant that pretty much the whole midship section was filled with engines, so it's really easy to score engine room hits on the Omaha. You just aim basically about anywhere between these two masts, and if you penetrate with armor piercing, you're going to score a Citadel hit and roll for maximum damage. Well, if you try to do that on the Cleveland, it's not going to work, and here's why. You try to aim for the area directly under the funnels. Here's the funnels right here. So you think, yeah, Citadel area, right here, boom. Well, that's not true. On the Cleveland, the Citadel area is a little different. You've got a little area by both of the gun turrets. Those are the magazines. And you've got that forward and aft. Then you've got the engine room citadels. And there's actually 2. but they're not where you expect them to be. These are what are called ducted funnels, where there's duct work running from the engine room to where the funnel's actually located. The funnel's not directly above the engine room. There's an aft engine room, it's right about here. There's a forward engine room, which is right about here. Basically, right about under these two gun turrets is where you get your citadels on the Cleveland. They're under the water, at the water line, right below these two gun turrets, and the funnels are in the middle. So if you shoot to try and hit right below the funnels like you normally would, your shots end up landing in this middle section here, right between the two engine rooms, but without actually hitting either one. And while that makes it annoying and difficult to score citadel hits on the Cleveland, it is a cool feature. And it's a cool feature because historically, naval architects and designers of these warships, one of the things that they try to do is they try to make the engine rooms difficult to knock out. They usually have some of the thickest armor. Like if you look at the armor on a battleship, usually the only places with thicker armor than the engine room is the turrets and the ammo stowage. But in addition to the thickest armor over the engine room, they usually also have multiple engine rooms. Usually at least 2, but 4 is more common. And the reason why they do that is because these ships are steam powered. And usually they have at least 2 steam plants. And a steam plant is made up in its very simplest form of a boiler and a steam turbine. There's a ton of other stuff that goes into it. I went to college to be a mariner and spent quite a lot of time talking about steam turbines, even though I'm not an engineer. So there's a heck of a lot more than just turbines and a boiler. But those are the 2 biggest things. And a lot of the time what these ships will have is they'll have a turbine room that just has the turbines in it, separate from where the boiler is. And then they'll have at least 2 of each. So that way you have a number 1 boiler room and a number 2 boiler room. And you have a number 1 turbine room and a number 2 turbine room, something like that. That way if, say, a shell comes in, boom, knocks out your number 1 turbine room, you just send your steam to the number 2 turbine room. You would not be able to go as fast, but your ship would still move. Same thing for boilers. You lose one of your boiler rooms, you just use the other one, run the steam, whichever. You wouldn't be able to go as fast, but you would be able to move. So I think it's cool that this, what is essentially a historical feature of how warships actually were designed to be more durable, is noticeable in the game by shooting at the Cleveland. So I think that's pretty cool. Now let's kind of go on to some other things. The Cleveland can carry a fighter scout. Who cares? They're annoying, but that's really about it. That's all I'm going to say about it. The main guns on this ship. The main guns on this ship are really good. For a main battery, it has 4 triple turrets of 152 millimeter guns. They have a range of 14.6 kilometers. They're really accurate with a 134 meter dispersion at maximum range. The AG shells do 2,200 damage and have a 12% chance to set the enemy on fire. So you have a really high chance to cause a fire if you can hit all 12 of your shells. I'm not a mathematician, so I don't actually know what the chance of that is. I know it's not 12 plus 12 plus 12, like, because then you'd have 144% chance, and that's not true. But anyway, the other thing to note is the AP shells. The AP shells do 3,200 damage, and it is worth knowing that because that's actually pretty good damage. And so if you know you can penetrate an enemy target with your armor-piercing ammo, it is definitely worth using the Cleveland's armor-piercing ammo. We're gonna look at that a lot in the battle because I'm gonna spend quite a bit of time shooting armor-piercing ammo in the upcoming battle. Now for secondary guns, the Cleveland has these turrets right here, 5-inch 38 guns. These are destroyer guns. They range out to 4 kilometers, and you've got 12 of them mounted in 6 twin turrets. So yeah, that's really nice. Oh, on the artillery, I can't even believe I forgot this. The rate of fire. That's like the biggest thing. The Cleveland's rate of fire is insane. 7.5 rounds per minute per barrel. So you can put out a lot of shells with this thing. Um, since I'm a person who likes to do numbers, yeah, 90 shells per minute. That's pretty good. So you can do a lot of damage with the guns on the Cleveland. Uh, Kind of a downside to the Cleveland's guns, at long ranges, they do have a really, really, really high trajectory. So they're going to arc a lot, which means they have a really long hang time. So you have to lead targets really, really far. Sometimes I'm shooting at battleships, and I'm leading them so far they're not even on my monitor. So yeah. But I'll score hits on that kind of shooting with disturbing regularity. Right, next onto the AA guns. The Cleveland is famous for being a really, really, really good AA ship. And that's because it is a really good AA ship. But the thing about the Cleveland's AA that makes it so good is that it's the first time where you really get this sort of AA power. They've improved the AA on the Omaha a lot. So the Tier 5 Omaha used to basically still have no AA. Now it's all right. I mean, it'll shoot down a few planes. It's not great, but it'll shoot down a few planes. But the Cleveland's AA is where you first start getting truly good anti-aircraft firepower. And what she's got for AA guns, she has 20 of these, or 20. She has 13 of these single-mounted 20mm Oerlikon guns. These really aren't that good. They don't do that much damage, and they have a short range of only 2.1 kilometers. She also has 6 of these twin-mounted 40mm Bofors guns. These are better. They do more damage, and they have a 3.5 kilometer range. So that's nice. But really, the Cleveland's AA firepower, most of it comes from these. These are the 5-inch 38 guns. Not only are these your secondary, but they're also your AA guns. They do a decent amount of damage. Actually, they do less than the 40mm Bofors, but they have longest range, 5 kilometers. Also, since these are dual-purpose guns, it allows you to use the defensive fire cooldown, which is pretty much the thing that makes American cruiser AA so devastating, is defensive fire. We'll come back to that in just a minute. On to the last little bits here. The Cleveland is pretty fast. She can do 32.9 knots. She maneuvers pretty well and has a quick rudder shift time. Last night I actually played a battle where I had a pair of Minakazes shooting torpedoes at me. The first one fired them from an angle about like this at my starboard bow, and he led them really, really good. So I cut the rudder hard to starboard, and I turned to the right as fast as I could, and I had a torpedo go right under my stern. It probably passed by like 3 meters. As the torpedo got to about here, I could see torpedoes from the other Minakaze coming from this direction. So I cut the rudder hard to port, and I took those torpedoes just under the stern as well. Like, it was crazy. I went from hard over to hard over as fast as I could and dodged all 6 torpedoes. And the closest one from both destroyers probably came within less than 10 feet of my ship. So that's really, that's pretty maneuverable to be able to weave through those torpedoes. It was a bit of an adrenaline moment. It was awesome. Concealment, I don't really worry about the concealment on the ship because pretty much the moment I see an enemy, I start firing my guns. And I don't stop firing my guns until all the enemies are dead or I'm dead. So I don't really worry about the concealment on the Cleveland at all. Now, modules, I'm fully upgraded. There's no reason not to be. Well, unless you're grinding, that's a reason. But there's nothing on the ship grind-wise that's worth skipping. So, equipment on the ship, I have main battery modification 1, which gives you 20% less chance of a magazine detonation. That's never a bad thing to have. 20% less chance to the main battery becoming knocked out, and 20% chance, or 20% increased speed for repairing the main battery. The Cleveland gets its turrets knocked out fairly often, but you've got four of them, so if you lose one, it's not like a huge deal, but it's still nice to be able to get them back in action quickly because this thing kills stuff by doing rapid amounts of damage by spamming its shells. So if you lose your guns, you can't spam shells. So I really like this modification. For the number 2 slot, I've gone with AA Gun Modification 2 to give me 20% extra AA range. I think that since the Cleveland's such a prominent AA ship, this is really the only way to go. You could make a case for Gunfire Control System number 1 to increase your gun accuracy, but really the accuracy on the Cleveland's already pretty strong. You don't really need it. The challenge accuracy-wise on this ship is going to be learning to lead the long-range shots, not getting your shells to land close enough together. So I don't really think this would really help, and this AA gun modification definitely helps. Mainly because right off the bat, it means these 5-inch 38 guns can fire 6 kilometers instead of 5. So that is nice. For the number 3 modification, I like to go with Damage Control Modification 1 to reduce chance of fire and flooding. And for the number 4 slot, I like to go with Damage Control System 2 to reduce the amount of time my ship burns or floods. And the reason why I do that is because this ship, since this is a Cleveland class cruiser, you meet a lot of other Cleveland class cruisers. And the Cleveland is like one of the primary ships for HE spamming. It's one of the main fire hose ships of the game. Right along there, right alongside this thing, the Atlanta. Because this thing's a fire hose, and because everyone knows it's good, everybody targets it like relentlessly, you get set on fire a lot. I like to reduce the amount of burning that I do in this ship. It is a tough ship, but it's not a battleship, so I don't have a heal ability, so I try to just mitigate the fire as much as possible. Now quickly onto the captain skills. I have ship survivability, which again reduces the amount of time that my ship spends on fire and flooding. I also have a secondary armament basic fire training, and the reason why I went with that is because of the increased AA efficiency. I don't really care about the increased reload to 155mm guns, and here's why. This captain, I'm going to move him into my Pensacola. He's going to ride my American cruisers all the way up to tier 10, and as soon as I leave the Cleveland and I get the Pensacola, which will be not very far from now, I'm not going to be getting that bonus to the reload time of 155mm guns anymore because the Pensacola has 203mm guns. But I will still be getting the AA efficiency, and the Pensacola is a very good AA platform. For my number 2 rank scale, I have Expert Marksman to increase the traverse rate of my turrets. That's almost never a bad choice. If you're on a ship that's a gunboat, like, that's the way to go. My number 3 skill, I have a Superintendent, which gives me 1 additional charge to my consumables, and I have that in order to use the defensive fire cooldown, which we will talk about as soon as I point out my number 4 skill, which is the Advanced Firing Training skill, and again, I have this for the range to AA defense. I don't care about the range of my 155mm guns. I already have long enough range on this ship that it's difficult to even hit stuff. So I don't really need more range, but I want the AA firepower. So that's why I took the that level 4 skill advanced firing training, because that means these turrets have a minimum range of 7 kilometers, and if the bonuses stack, then it's out to like 7.3 or something like that, 7.2, which is really good range for these 5-inch 38s. Now, I've mentioned defensive fire like 3 times, and I never said anything about it. Defensive fire is probably the most important thing on American cruisers. The reason why it's so important is because it really increases the damage that your AA guns do, but much more important than that is it decreases the accuracy of attacks by enemy bombers and torpedo bombers, and it decreases that accuracy by a lot. We're not talking about a small change here. When you activate defensive fire, enemy attack planes do what's called a panic drop, and the amount of panic that they do is substantial. as an example, just a rough example, if I'm using my Independence, it's got dive bombers. Pretend I'm going to dive bomb my own Cleveland. If I use the auto bomb attack, the target area where those bombs are going to land is about as long as the Cleveland and about 3 times as wide. So it's the target area for those bombs to land in is reasonable sized, or if I just auto bomb at a cruiser or a battleship or a carrier, I get a good chance of hitting. If I manually bomb at my own ship, the length of that target area is probably about the length from here to here, and half again as wide as the ship. So if I put the bombing area in the right spot, my bombs will hit. If the enemy activates defensive fire and my bombers are in the zone of panic, the area that my bombs are going to hit probably goes from about this crane back to here, and is probably about as wide as this little slot of water, this little waterway that we're in. So that's a humongous area, and barely any of it's taken up by my ship. So if that's the bomb angle, like if that's where all the bombs are going to spread to, there's very little chance any of them are actually going to land on my ship. The other thing it does is it makes the torpedo bombers spread their torpedoes a lot. If you're using American torpedo bombers, they drop a really, really tight spread, 6 torpedoes wide, with only about 1 width of my ship between the torpedoes. And they all go parallel to each other. If you use defensive fire, the American torpedoes will drop in a fan that's a cone like 100 degrees wide. That's really easy to avoid the torpedoes. So that's why defensive fire is actually such a huge cooldown for the American cruisers. And you get it from the Cleveland all the way up to Tier 10. And they're actually going to add it to American destroyers in patch 4.1 because the American destroyers are kind of underpowered. The only problem with it is it's got a long cooldown. It's got a 180-second cooldown. That's 3 minutes. So I'm actually thinking I might have to start taking defensive fire 2 to reduce that to a 2-minute cooldown. So guys, we've been in the port for 22.5 minutes. That's a really long time. But I really wanted to cover everything about this ship before going into this match. And so I think without further ado, we'll take a look at this battle replay. It's a pretty cool replay, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys picked up some good information about what makes the Cleveland so powerful. Alright guys, so we're loading into battle in the Cleveland, and every time I load into battle I try to do like a quick analysis of the matchmaker, and basically my conclusions in this battle are that the enemy's got a slight carrier advantage, but it's not really that bad. If our Langley and our Bogue are on their game, they should be able to take out most of the Zuiho's attack planes, and a Bogue's not really much of a threat. Battleship-wise, we're pretty even, but the enemy team, again, slight advantage. We each have a Tier 6 and a Tier 4 battleship, but our team's got 2 Tier 4 battleships, and they have a Tier 5 battleship. So they've got a little bit of a battleship advantage. Destroyer-wise, we're pretty even. We both have a Tier 6 destroyer and a Tier 4 destroyer. That was a loud pickup truck. Our Tier 6 destroyer is a little bit better than theirs. On cruisers, my team's got a distinct advantage. We have 3 Cleveland class, an Omaha class, and a Kuma class. The enemy team has 2 Cleveland class, an Aoba class, and 2 Tier 4s, a Phoenix and a Kuma class. And the reason why I rate the Cleveland as being at an advantage over the Aoba is with a good player in the Cleveland, you can kill an Aoba very, very, very fast. Spoiler alert, at one point in this battle, I'm going to encounter that Aoba, and I'm going to kill him very, very, very fast. To be fair, he can kill me very, very, very fast as well. He just needs to hit with torpedoes. But that's a lot harder to do than it is for me to do what I do to him. So that's enough tooting my own horn at how I'm going to ruin this Aoba. Let's get into actual battle. Now, I'm actually going for the C-cap, which usually I try to actually be a decent human being with my Cleveland, and I try to give our battleships cover. depending a little bit on what the matchmaker has given me. Um, but playing as the AA escort is one of the main things that you need to do in American cruisers, and I usually try to do it at least a little bit. Now, I will say that the Cleveland is so powerful that, well, it can be so powerful anyway, that a lot of the times I do things in it that are pretty YOLO. But one thing about the Cleveland is it's not as powerful as it used to be. During the closed beta, the game developers hadn't really implemented armor correctly, so as far as I understand it, the way armor worked in closed beta was pretty much you had the armor on like the exterior hull of your ship and that was it. If shots were able to penetrate any of that armor, they basically were doing good damage. Now that's not the way it works anymore. There's internal bulkheads. There's like multiple armored decks, stuff like that. So it's harder to penetrate armor than it used to be, and you can no longer penetrate armor, usually anyway, in ridiculous manners. I used to fire nothing but AP in the Cleveland because its armor-piercing ammo would penetrate everything. The only time I would use high explosive was when I ran into battleships. So if I ran into a Fuso or a Nagato, I would use AP. But right now, I'm about to run into something much less menacing than a Fuso or a Nagato. All of a sudden, surprise Kuma. Now I know the Kuma's going to try to torpedo me, so I slam on the brakes. I fire my first AG salvo to get him out of the gun barrels, and I reload AP, because the Kuma's a floating citadel, and he's not moving. And I fire 12 shells into him, hit with 8 of them, score 6 citadel penetrations, and we actually kill that Kuma-class cruiser basically in one shot. I triggered my defensive fire cooldown because I saw all those torpedo bombers. I saw all these torpedo bombers flying this way through the gap. I thought they were going to torpedo me while I was stopped, but they didn't. Luckily for me, they didn't. Alright, now, we've got an Omaha, or a Phoenix-class cruiser over there. I'm shooting armor-piercing at him because it's what I had loaded. But also, the Phoenix has like no armor and a massive citadel, so it's fairly easy to score citadel pens with this thing. And as you can see, my armor-piercing ammo is doing a lot of damage to this guy. And I think right here I might actually be able to kill a blow on him. But no, we're just doing even more damage. And we leave that Phoenix on about 700 health. That was all armor-piercing ammo right there. The Phoenix is a great ship to shoot armor-piercing ammo at with just about everything. The only thing you want to use AG, if you're fighting a Phoenix and you're in a destroyer, use AG. But now, here comes the Aoba. Now, he's on full health, and I'm on 16,000. But I've already landed 3 Citadel hits on him, and we've taken him down by half health. And keep in mind, I'm only using my rear 6 guns. I've got 6 more guns. So I hit him 4 more times. I've got him down to about 3,900 health or so. And we fire 12 more shells at him, and we kill him. So I just killed that Aoba with about 15, 16 hits. I fired 24 shells at that guy, killed him. I have no idea how many shells he fired at me. I have no idea how many hits he scored, but he only did about 6,000 damage back. So, you know, that's the kind of the strength of the Cleveland is if you know how to shoot and you know what ammo you can use against different targets, the amount of damage you can do with this thing is ludicrous. Each one of those Citadel hits I scored was doing 3,200 damage to that guy. So, just in Citadel hits alone, I think I scored 5 on that. Yeah, well, let's see, I did 6 to the Phoenix. Or I did 6 to the Kuma and 1 to the Phoenix, so that's 7. So I did 6 Citadel hits to that, I did 6 Citadel hits to that Aoba. Each one of those Citadel hits is for roughly 3,000 damage. I did about 18,000 damage in Citadel hits to that Aoba. Actually a little more than that, more like 19,000. So that's a lot. And it's easy to do. It's not hard to score Citadel hits on an Aoba. They've got almost no armor. They have a massive Citadel. Now, I want my team to win. And since we've killed everything that was over here, I've diverted from going to slay more enemies over here. I diverted into the sea capture zone to capture it as quickly as possible. I know that destroyer back there, that Mutsuki, he'll get up here eventually and cap it, but I'm closer. It's not really out of my way. I might as well just come cap it myself. Right, so before that relatively fast and furious encounter, I was talking about the changes to armor.
Our team has taken the lead.
Now I realize you just saw me shoot a lot of armor piercing at 3 different guys to very great effect, but the changes to the way armor works in this game have actually made the Cleveland. I mean, it's still a really strong ship. Don't get me wrong, but the changes to armor piercing ammo have actually made the Cleveland a lot less strong than it used to be. Because before, you used to be able to shoot armor piercing ammo. Pardon my phone. You used to be able to shoot armor piercing ammo pretty much exclusively, and you'd be scoring penetrating hits on
The enemy team has taken the
really
lead.
any kind of ship you would encounter. Even some battleships you could use armor piercing on. Basically, I used to use armor piercing on
ready for takeoff.
battleships until it stopped working, and then I would switch to high explosive. But now, pretty much, really lightly armored cruisers like the Omaha, the Phoenix, and the Kuma, the Alba, you can get away with using armor piercing, but you really, I mean, if I'm fighting another Cleveland, I shoot AG because the Cleveland's guns have a hard time penetrating another Cleveland. But with high explosive, I can set the guy on fire and do all sorts of nasty things. I mean, I don't waste my time shooting armor-piercing ammo at battleships in this thing anymore. I just straight up let them have it with AG. Set them on fire, break all their AA guns, burn them, like whatever. So, she's still a powerful ship, and the powerful nature of fire in the game right now still has the Cleveland being able to really to lay out the hurt. But the fact that you can't just murder everything with armor-piercing ammo anymore kind of demonstrates that the ship's not quite as strong as she used to be. Now that's sort of right here. We just had a little bit of an AA encounter. Those are dive bombers from the Bogue. I actually managed to kill all 6 of them before they get away. I did not use my defensive fire cooldown because I didn't think it was worth my time to waste it disrupting just one dive bomber. If the Zuiho was coming after me with all of his torpedo bombers, hell yeah, I'm gonna use my cooldown, but not on just one dive bomber. So we've spotted the boat. I've switched to high explosive ammo because against carriers, I like to shoot high explosive ammo to set them on fire. That way they can't launch an aircraft. So we've set this Bogue on fire twice. He put the first one out with his damage repair, or his damage control, almost immediately. So this second fire is going to burn for quite some time. I've broken his steering twice. You can see that my shells are landing pretty accurately and dealing a substantial amount of damage per volley. Probably 1,500 to 2,000 damage per 12 shells, pretty regularly. So that's not bad damage output. But then again, the Bogue is weak. It's basically got no armor, and armor really mitigates your high explosive damage. Now I see these 2 guys coming in, Magnus Oakham and Kilroy 101, and I choose to target Kilroy because he's only got 5,500 health. If I focus Kilroy, potentially I can kill this guy in as few as 2 salvos. So putting all my DPS onto Kilroy, just trying to take him down as quickly as possible. You can see the long shell flight of these 6-inch shells. I'm only firing about 10 kilometers, and I had to lead 6 or 7 seconds ahead. I'm leading this guy by about a ship length. That's a pretty long lead. I didn't really do any real long-range shooting in this match, but it's not that uncommon in really long-range situations for me to actually have the target on my screen. Right, so it looks like Hopefully we can get the kill shot right here. Kilroy's down to 783 health. I managed to get myself unstuck from that island I ran into. And there we go. Putting Kilroy down for our third kill. Now I'm down to 1284 health, and Magnus Oakham's closing in. I pop my defensive fire just because I know I'm going to die. I just want to kill as many of these carrier planes as I can before the end. Those shells are going to kill me right there. Just trying to get out as much damage as I can before I go down. And with that shot, Magnus Oakham takes me down, but not before I manage to score 22 aircraft kills, 117 hits, 5 crits, 5 fires, 15 citadels, 4 kills, a base capture, first blood, and a devastating strike. So I'd definitely call that a successful round for the Cleveland. Whew. It's quite a quick one, too. So let's take a look at post-game stats and see how we did. Right, so the litany of destruction, as I was so fond of calling it in World of Tanks, pretty much just looked at this a minute ago. And that was 3,336 experience, 167 free experience, 396,021 credits. The Cleveland is a good ship to make money on. If you can't afford a premium ship, I would definitely recommend the Omaha and or the Cleveland for money-making ships. You can do a lot of damage in these ships pretty easily. You can make a lot of money in these ships pretty easily. So you can see 2,224 base experience. So that was that must have been the first win of the day for me. So pretty good experience gain on that. You can see we got about double the next guy on our team. Not quite double what this Fuso got. Good work by our Bogue, by the way, shooting down 25 planes. Props to him. The primary mission of the Bogue is to kill enemy aircraft. He killed a lot of enemy aircraft. Good work. Thumbs up to you, sir. You don't see enough American carriers doing their jobs. Now, on to our actual damage output. We managed to do 62,028 damage with those 53 AP hits. We also managed... I'm a derp. Trying to add up the damage here real quick, but I'm an idiot and pushed the wrong button on my stupid Windows calculator. So, I pushed it again. I'm just a tard. I'm just going to estimate. 62,028 damage with 53 AP hits, 43,747 damage with 79 HE hits, and another 6,885 damage from fire. So we got about, let's see, 66, 106, 113, about 113,000 damage in that battle, which is pretty good. I definitely won't turn up my nose at 113,000 damage. And you can see we managed to do a lot with our HE and our fires, but because I encountered targets where I could make use of my AP rounds, we really punched it out with the AP. Just a ton of damage, pretty much that entire Aoba in 24 shells. That's 2 salvos. And we literally killed the Kuma in 1 salvo of AP. I did hit him with some HE shells first, but that was just because they were loaded. If they weren't loaded, I still would have killed him in 1 salvo of AP. You can see damage received. I took 2 torpedoes right off the bat from that Kuma and lost 15,000 health. That was pretty devastating. He paid the price for it, but that was a really good ambush torque by that Kuma. I also took 16 AP hits for 16,000 damage and 4 HE hits for 2,376. I'm actually kind of surprised I took as much AP damage as I did. I would expect the Aoba to be shooting AP at me with his 8-inch guns. Like, that's the right choice. Shoot at Cleveland with 8-inch AP. Like, good move from that guy. But I'm a little surprised that the enemy Cleveland seem to have been shooting it at me too, because it can be difficult to penetrate another Cleveland with the HE or with the AP. Now, I was pretty much broadside onto them, which would make it easier, but it's a risky move. I mean, I don't do it because I don't shoot AP at other Clevelands because I've watched 12 shells hit another Cleveland and 12 shells bounce straight off and do 0 damage. So I fire HE at them with my own Cleveland. But these guys were, these two guys right here, put pretty effective fire on me with their AP rounds. So, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I guess if you give a good angle, you can still punch through pretty easy. Now, you can see our profit. We got 358,700 profit, and with our 1.5 times for the experience. Is that 1.5 times? No, that's not. That's just premium bonus. That's not even a 1.5 times win. We got 3,336 experience, which is definitely worth getting. So, that was a pretty successful battle for the Cleveland. It was kind of a weird one in that I did actually fire so much AP, but it just goes to show that even with the changes in the game, where this ship's not the armor-piercing god that it used to be, that by knowing your targets and by knowing your guns, you can be just way, way more effective. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you learned some stuff about the Cleveland, about her toughness and her effectiveness in battle, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely had a fun time playing that match, especially the part, well, 2 parts. Blowing up that Kuma in 1 salvo, that was, not gonna lie, that was pretty awesome. But killing that Aoba in the just blink of an eye like that was frankly kind of amazing. I'd sort of forgotten that you could do that with the Cleveland, and I wasn't expecting him to die that fast. I was expecting it to take 3 or 4 full salvos, and it only took 2 salvos worth. I fired 3 times, but I only fired 2 salvos worth of shells. So that's pretty. That was pretty eye-opening to me. So, like I said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed it, and just stick around because I'm really, really, really just loving World of Warships right now. I hope you guys are having fun too. And until next time, guys, just remember, you can never have enough big guns.